time to gather round. Get all the kids in the neighborhood. Yeah! We'll sit in circles and clap our hands and clap, clap, clap. We'll jump up and down and scream. Yeah! It's the serial killer story hour, and it's live with Pete Altieri. That's the bald guy from Murder Metal Mayhem. Come on, kids, scream out! Serial killer story hour, yeah! Serial killer story hour, yeah, yeah! How about one more time with some balls, kids? Yeah. Serial killer story hour, yeah! Horns, high, high, high.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Murder Metal Mayhem live tonight. Always good to see the smiles on those kids' faces with their hands all up in the air, fired up for some live serial killer story hour with me tonight. So it should be a good one. We're going to be talking about Richard Speck tonight, the Chicago mass murderer, not a serial killer, but a mass murderer. But we've done some non-serial killer topics in this segment before, so had a few of you ask about Richard Speck when I started doing this, so I'm going to go and do that tonight. But I hope you like my new shirt here. I just got it today, the Dinocchio design. This one is from a new company, a different company that makes the other stuff. But the quality is really good. So if you're looking to get a Destiny or a Dinocchio shirt or a hoodie or whatever, the quality seems really good. The print looks great. Some tears coming down, and then the tattoo on her arm in case she forgets that number. I thought you'd like that little touch there. So having a little fun with it, but so I'm excited to get the new shirt. And Donna says it looks great. Yeah, thanks. I really like the design. Depending on the color shirt you get, the tiers will be different colors. So they have a limit of numbers of colors you can use, and so this was what they suggested. So I'm like, cool, black tiers looks all right with this one. But if you get like a blue shirt or something, it'll look more like tiers, like regular tiers. But yeah, you can check it out. All right. Got a little bit of a clogged nose every time I eat. I think that deviated septum of mine is causing more problems. But I'm afraid to get an operation because not only have I had too many damn operations, I'm about sick of that, but I've heard or read that it could change my voice, and I don't want that to happen. So I don't really want to take the chance unless I just absolutely have to. So, but anyway, thanking some people here that are here early, like always. First one in the shoot tonight, Donna Lembo, the captain of the Mayhem Squad, the moderator-in-chief, knuckle cracker from Jersey. Good to see Donna here. Alicia from Misleading Evidence. Excellent. Another person that's always here early. And let's see. We got Jethro Troll. Amazing. Good to see you, Jethro. Catherine S. Awesome to see you, Catherine. Another moderator. That's awesome. And Phyllis. What serial killer killed my finger boiler? I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's a typo or not sure what that is. So yeah, if you got another clue to help me out, then let me know, Phyllis. All right. Isles of Shoals. Good to see you, my friend. Richard Speck was a demon for sure. Yeah, he was brutal. Just completely lost it one night. We'll talk about that. Okay, let me look at your original. Trying to see, Phyllis, what you said originally. Yeah, I'm not picking it up. Madcaw said Speck is a great example of multiple murders with control of those waiting for their turn. Yeah, very brutal the way he laid this thing out. So, yeah, we're going to talk about it. Madcaw, good to see you. I'm not familiar with that handle, so good to see you if you're new or just voicing it in the chat tonight. Good to see you. Catherine S says she's listening because I'm working. So awesome. Multitasking, Catherine, multitasking. Very good. Very good. So, yeah, tonight the topic is going to be Richard Speck. We did this on the podcast. I think I'll have to check and see because every now and then I get a thing from YouTube that says this video cannot be monetized. And what they're talking about are the podcast episodes because as I've said before, the podcast was quite a bit more brutal, hard hitting, no holes barred. We were cursing and making pretty disturbing, dark humor type jokes. I mean, not for everybody, but we had like a cult following that really liked it. But we did Speck, but it could be one of the ones they didn't allow me to use. It's hard to say because that's what kills me. Like you're talking about true crime. And it's just like, people question sometimes why I say red stuff. And I know most of you understand why we do that. But for example, I did my live on Saturday and I don't make hardly anything from a live. And when I say hardly anything for the ad revenue, and I set it to low so there's not as many ads for you guys that don't pay for it. I pay for it in my personal life because I can't stand all the commercials. But those that have that, it's a nice feature. But anyway, so yeah, it's something that I've been dealing with and trying my best to accommodate. I don't do the unalive thing. I just think that's ridiculous. There's some words I just don't say just because I think they sound absurd. And I try to write around it when I write my scripts for the videos. But, but in a live like Saturday, I wasn't worried about it because I don't make anything. I'm talking like $3 or $4. It's ridiculous. So I figured I don't care, So, but that one got flagged. The Saturday live, they demonetized it because they don't really give you a good, reason. But I'm sure that that's what it was because I was saying, all the words that you're probably not supposed to say. But ironically enough, when I repurposed the live for a video that I released called "Who Moved the Bodies" or something like that, something to that effect. It passed and it didn't get flagged, which doesn't make any sense because it's the same video without the intro and some stuff toward the end. I just captured just the Idaho 4 stuff out of it. And so anyway, sometimes it doesn't make any sense, but that's why we do it. And I get comments every now and then of, well, we're adults. Why can't you just say, like, dude, really? Like, you really think I want to talk like that? I mean, that's just ridiculous. And if you want to hear that kind of stuff, then the podcast is right up your alley. We did like 186 or 286. I can't even remember. I think it was 280 something episodes. So there's a lot of them on there. If you want to check that tab on the channel and see if there's any that you want to, watch. Most of them are just the audio. for the podcast. So we did a few videos that are on the channel too, under miscellaneous, I think, or something like that. Oh, we got Mark and Betty here. Excellent. Good to see you guys. Awesome. UK fans. That's great. And I'm looking at the chat here. Sorry. Yeah, Jethro says I don't like the term unalive. Yeah, I don't say it. That's why I say like exterminated. There's so many other words you can use, but I do words for a living, so it's easy for me, but maybe it's not for somebody. I don't know, you know. But I try my best to keep away from that sort of stupidity. So yeah, so things have been busy. I had some laser. It took like 30 seconds. My left eye from the cataract surgery, I had some scar tissue that was affecting my long vision where I was wearing the glasses more. And so they said there was scar tissue there that's common with cataracts if you've had they were bad, and mine was horrible in my left eye. I was almost blind. And so they went in and lasered them off, and then they said in a couple of days my vision should be like it was right when I had the surgery, which was like ridiculous. Like I could see like better than I ever have, which is fantastic. So it's really pretty cool. So I had that done, no big deal, didn't hurt, and got some other appointments this week, getting ready for my surgery. That's scheduled for the 18th, but we'll see if they postpone it. They've got some tests I'm running, and so we'll see. But I'll let you guys know if it affects the channel. And I've always been very forthcoming with what I'm dealing with over here. So, all right. So I guess it's time to talk about Richard Speck. I do have a topic for next week that I've picked out that I think will be cool. Going to Australia with this one. Definitely a big case in the 80s, but we'll talk about that later. If you haven't already, hit that like button. I always say put some touch DNA on that sucker. If you're not a subscriber, please think about doing that. I'm getting really close to 16.5 thousand. I'm like 10 away. So thank you for all the new subscribers. It's really crazy. I did the video on Xana's room, and I've got like 430 new subscribers just from that video. And then the one I did on Maddie's room, I've got like another 200 on that one, so really, really awesome. So all the new people, if you're new watching this, welcome and glad to have you here. So yeah, that's what's up. So we'll talk about that later, what we're going to do next week. So let's get to business here. If you're new to the Serial Killer Story Hour, the way this works is I'm going to go through the notes, just to go over the case with Richard Speck, and then after I'm done, I'll come back in and see what the chat's saying, and if there's anybody that's got questions or comments, I'll try to include as many of you as I can. And then if we have any time left at the end, if you guys want to talk about other true crime, we're good for an hour. So I won't keep you more than that. I always try to hit that target of an hour or less. So if you've got, whether it's Idaho 4 or, David or any of the other cases I've been covering, love to talk about that with you. So, all right. Foxy Rose made it. That's cool. Very good. Good to see Foxy Rose here with us. All right. So let's talk about Mr. Richard Speck. So this guy is one of the most infamous mass murderers in U.S. history. So some people confuse the mass murderers and the serial killers, and there's definitions for these, and they've evolved over the years. Serial killer, the number of victims has changed. So a serial killer is, somebody that does, murders, but they there's a cooling off period, and then they do it again, and it continues, and usually it speeds up. So if they waited, say, 3 months for the second victim, then the third one might be a month. They start getting into that, almost like that berserker mode, and they're just like, and that's when they make their mistakes, um, and could potentially. And my wife turned the lights out there for a second. That's how they define it. But a mass murderer, it's all the murders at one place at one time. So the Idaho Four would be obviously an example of that. So a spree killer would be somebody that say they hold up a gas station and you know exterminate the clerk, jump in their car, take off, and then check into a hotel and end up doing that to the hotel guy behind the desk and steal some money, that kind of thing. That's like a spree killer. And those are interesting. There's a couple of those I want to do here that are really wild. There's one out in California that was just nuts. I mean, these guys were just driving down the street, or they were country roads, but if they saw somebody like hitchhiking, they just pull up and just blow them away right there in the street. It was nuts, and it was just really random. But we'll do that, I'm sure. So that's what Richard Speck would be, mass murderer. And the 1966. I mean, this would be what Dr. Peter Vronsky. I interviewed him, really well respected professor up in Toronto, and he's also written many books. I have almost all of them, I think, about serial killers, and very, very fascinating stuff. And he talked about the golden age of the serial killer, which would have been later 60s, 70s, and mid 80s, late 80s at the latest. That right in there, that's what he called the golden age, meaning that there was so much of it. It was just rampant. And you had, like in Los Angeles, we've done on the podcast, we've done the freeway killers, and it was like three of them going on at one time. I mean, so there's just like bodies showing up on the side of the highway, and there's not the same person doing it. Really crazy stuff. For the baseline shooter down in Arizona, in Phoenix, and then you had the baseline assaulter, I'll say it that way, that was doing that to women all over, randomly all over Phoenix, and they were both going on at the same time. So it gets kind of wild. But this would have been like right at the beginning, right before Manson. So this was pretty shocking. And it reshaped public fear, nursing school security, which is interesting, and then prison oversight based on some of his antics later in jail or prison. And you'll see it's pretty wild, what he was doing and how this video got leaked. But there was one survivor that night at the nursing housing, and that was Corazon Amario, and or more Amareo, I think is how you say it. I'm sorry, I butchered that. But she was the key because she hid under the bed and survived. She was real small. I believe she was Filipino. She was really small and was able to sneak under the bed without him noticing, and she stayed there the whole night. She got up out of there at dawn. She was scared to move. I can understand why. So when Speck was a kid, born in 1941 in Kirkwood, Illinois, which is kind of the sticks on the western side of the state, he was the seventh of eight kids. So a lot of turmoil in the house, very typical of what we talk about on a lot of these, with these, crazy situations at home. His wasn't horrible. I mean, as horrible as some, but he was very close to his dad, and his dad passed away from a heart attack when Speck was 6, and this really devastated him. I mean, this was major emotional impact on his life. Mother remarries in 1950, so Speck is 9, to Carl Lindbergh, a man with a long criminal record and a heavy drinking problem. That does not go well together. Speck and his sister endured verbal and physical abuse. So he's starting to get exposed to violence, excessive alcohol abuse. And their family is moving from Illinois back down to Texas. That's where I think his grandparents were. So he was back and forth. The family was just very unstable. Not a good environment for these 7 or 8 kids. I mean, that's nuts. But that early trauma, that really affected him, and exposure to criminal behavior because of this stepdad, right? And he had no male role model in his life after his dad died. So that's never a good thing for a boy. So he starts heavily drinking himself when he's a young teen. So starts right in with it. His first arrest, age 13. So he's heading down the wrong path. Drops out of high school at 16. Marries a 15-year-old girl, Shirley Malone, in 1962. They had a daughter, and then their marriage, goes to crap in 1966. So only 4 years, didn't work out. I'm sure. I mean, the guy's in and out of jail. He's a drunk. He's probably violent, just like his dad, or stepdad, I should say. So, he's just kind of escalating his criminal record, theft, check fraud, burglary, assaults. I mean, he was a mess. And he served time for the theft and the check fraud in 1963. So that would have been right after he got married. So no wonder she didn't want to be married to this guy. And then he gets paroled after 16 months. So by his early 20s, he was already a chronic offender and has this pattern of violence, substance abuse, and that instability that he dealt with throughout his childhood. So after he gets paroled, he continues drifting between jobs and states. Kind of, that's like that Henry Lee Lucas kind of stuff. But as far as we know, there wasn't any murders prior to the incident that we're getting ready to talk about. But he's escalating that violent behavior. He's making threats. He's assaulting people, getting in fights a lot. While he was in Texas, he got this tattoo. This is an important part of the story, but it was on, I think, his left arm, and it said "Born to Raise Hell." And it looks kind of like a jailhouse type tat, not professional, but crude, and it's very visible. And that becomes a key part of this story. So keep that in your hat. So in 1966, he flees Dallas to avoid arrest and returns back to Monmouth, Illinois, which is a little bit bigger than that Kirkwood where he was born, but still pretty small, maybe 30,000 people, not too big. His behavior more erratic, drinking more, raging out, and now he leads to this. He was staying with family, but nobody wanted him around because he was such a mess and he was violent and all the drinking. And so I think it was his sister that was letting him stay or was going to stay with her or something like that. And he ends up, doing this. So the night of July 13th into the 14th, 1966, Chicago was a dorm for student nurses. And the victims, there's 8 of them. The ages range from Looks like the youngest was 21 and the oldest was 20. There were two of them that were 24. So Gloria Davy, Patricia Matusek, Nina Jo Schmal, Pamela Wilkening, Suzanne Ferris, Mary Ann Jordan, Merlita Gargulo. That's a good Italian name. And Valentina Passion. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. So, yeah, the 8 of them. And so he breaks in armed with a knife. Now, this is kind of interesting, right? We're talking about Idaho 4 a lot on this channel. But here we got a guy. This is random. So this is not a planned thing. Of course, this is long before social media and all that kind of nonsense. So he just randomly, probably saw some females going in there or something like that. And then he just decided kind of on the fly, let's go do it. But he goes in with a knife. Okay. And I know that's been the one thing, a lot of people say about Idaho 4 is, how did Koberger or whoever decide to go into this place with a knife with 6 cars in the parking lot? Makes no sense. You don't know who's in there. I mean, there could be, a house full of people for all you know. So that's why that inside person really would have been key for this. And that's a story for another day. But over several hours, which is like this sadistic edge to Speck, he stabbed, strangled, or slashed the women one by one, alternating between methods. So there was like this weird pattern, often waiting 20 to 30 minutes between killings. So he was just kind of, doing his thing, taking a little break. So the others are completely terrorized. So he was able to keep them at bay with his knife, and I believe he tied them up as well. There was one victim, at least one that they know of, that was assaulted by him. So SA. And at the time, the murders were labeled the crime that stunned America. That was the headline. So I mentioned Corazon. She hid under the bed for hours and came out at dawn. And her eyewitness account of Speck's "Born to Raise Hell" tattoo would become crucial. So I told you that was going to come up later. This is sad but funny at the same time how he gets caught. So he attempts to end himself July of 1966. And he's taken to a hospital where doctors recognized his tattoo from the news reports. So the media was putting out this distinctive, crude tattoo on his arm, "Born to Raise Hell." And so everybody was, reading this back in the day when everybody read newspapers. And so the doctor knew about it. So while he was in the bed, he calls the police and they come in and arrest him right there in the hospital. So pretty wild. But that tattoo, it came back to haunt him. So see, if he had Murder Metal Mayhem, that he might have been okay, but I wasn't even born yet either. So I'm pretty old, but I wasn't quite born back then. I was born in 67, but not 66. So she recognized the tattoo, so she told the police, and then she testified, and she was so brave. She got up there and she totally pointed him out and talked about the tattoo and what she went through, and she was very strong. I mean, what a hero to take this guy down, because her eyewitness testimony was, irrefutable. So he ends up getting convicted on all 8 murders on April 15th, tax day, 1967. So I was like 2 months old when this happened. Originally sentenced to death, but of course, we all know in 1972, the Supreme Court ruled that capital punishment was unconstitutional, And that went on for a few years. They eventually overturned it in the later 70s. And check this out. So once they commuted his sentence to, time instead of, the chair or whatever, he gets 400, he got sentenced to 400 years to 1,200 years. I mean, I've seen some of these and you got to laugh, but 1,200 years? Wow. And then later it says it was adjusted to 100 to 300. So either way you slice it, of course, it's life, but it's just funny. The 1,200, I thought that's crazy. And when he came up for parole, he was denied. They weren't going to let him out. So he ends up doing his time at Stateville Correctional Center. That's in Joliet, which is south of Chicago. Pretty good sized city. Maybe a half hour, 45 minutes with traffic to Chicago. He was nicknamed the Birdman for keeping sparrows. So you've heard of the Birdman from Alcatraz, but this guy was also named that for keeping sparrows that flew into his cell. So not a model inmate, though. Always caught with, party favors, alcohol, other contraband he wasn't supposed to have. Spent decades in prison, largely isolated, but not without privileges. And he had access, like most prisons, to whatever contraband he wanted. Now, I told you about this video that leaked. So this gets kind of crazy. So early 90s. So this guy's been in prison for, 25 years at this time or so. This shocking video comes out. I remember because I had just moved to the Midwest in 90. So this was the year after I moved here. I remember this in the news and it was like, what the hell? I watched the video. I don't know if it's if it's on YouTube. I'll try to find it and I'll link it in the description if you're watching this on the replay, but I'll try to find it. I don't know if it's available. I remember seeing it though. He was in the video. It's like a leaked, like a cell phone video, or, well, I don't even know if cell phones did video in 91. So I'm not sure about that, how the video was recorded, but he was using party favors in the video, talking about it, laughing about it. He was wearing women's underwear. He was boasting and joking around. There was his cellmate was in the cell there in the video, and they're laughing about all the sex that they're having, and he's basically having the time of his life in there. All kinds of people involved, and yeah, it's nuts. Okay, and the thing that was really shocking, though, to a lot of people, especially, you got to remember, is a little more acceptable now, but back in 91, it was very taboo, but he had breasts, and they believed that he was taking hormones, on the black market. So pretty dangerous stuff, but he looked very odd. He's a bigger guy, so heavy set with these women's lingerie on and these breasts, and it was just really strange. Really, really strange. And he had kind of if I remember right, like a Southern accent. So this is just a national scandal and raising questions about prison oversight. Like, what the heck is going on here? How are these guys getting hormones and party favors and all this kind of stuff, And so a lot of people were really up in arms about it. And it, later was shown in congressional hearings on prison conditions and reform and that sort of thing. And it cemented Speck's image as a symbol of just how broken the system is, to let this kind of thing go on. And he's just doing his thing in there and having a hell of a time. But he dies of a heart attack later that year. one day before his 50th birthday at Stateville. So Stateville, I believe, is closed now, but they were doing like haunted tours through there. And I remember back when my band was active, we were going to rent it out because we were going to do a music video that was going to take place in a prison. And it wasn't even that much. I think it was $1,000 for the day. And you got to use like a cell block, the cafeteria, like some offices, and part of the yard. So it would have been perfect. And we were going to get a bunch of people to mosh in the prison yard with us playing in the middle of it. It was going to be really cool. But we ended up not doing it. I don't remember what the reason was, but a lot of movies have been filmed there, lots of them. Ones that I'm sure you've seen because of that. It's not that expensive. And they even had the guard uniforms you could rent or all sorts of props like that. So you could have access to the real thing. So the guards would look like they would really look, and the inmates wore their uniforms for the period that you were going to shoot for. Pretty neat. So, yeah, so he's gone, heart attack right before his 50th birthday. But definitely a horrific one night of 8 murders spread out like that, taking a little break. He was a heavy smoker, so he's over there smoking and chilling, and then goes, picks another one and does it in the other room. So the others are hearing the screaming and everything. I mean, it had to just be just horrific. But that scandal, though, that's what people remember, at least around here in the Midwest. People remember it. Definitely a disturbing thing. So anyway, I don't know how much you guys know about Speck. I'm just looking here. First comment I see. I remember Speck well. I was a kid, but lived in Chicago then. It was scary. I mean, it really was the first time I heard of such a murder. Speck lost count of the nurses he tied up because he was drinking. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. He would have found her under the bed, I'm sure, if he would have realized there was one missing. So interesting. Let's see. Foxy Rose says 1122 would have made the best haunted house ever. Yeah, that would have been pretty intense, I'm sure. I'm not a big believer in any of that kind of stuff, but I went to a few different haunted locations or what people said were haunted. I never had that experience, but my daughter is very perceptive to that sort of thing, and she does like readings and stuff like that. So she's really into that sort of thing. But it interests me, but I've never had anything happen. 'Cause there's a haunted bar up in Milwaukee I may have mentioned before, Shaker's Cigar Bar, and it's cool. They do a Dahmer tour, a walking tour, because that's where Dahmer did his thing up the bars around Shakers, and then they do a haunted tour through the bar. There's apartment upstairs where back in the day it was a speakeasy. The front was like a business that made it look legit. And Capone owned the building, him and his brother, and they had the back was a speakeasy, and there were prostitutes on the upper floors, and so one of them was murdered, and they say she was buried in the wall. And the new owner in the 80s bought the place and found bones in the wall when they renovated, so they called the police. And so he was doing haunted tours through there. It's pretty cool. It's in Milwaukee if you're in that area. It's in a nice area, so the parking is good, and you don't. He was even free. I didn't have to pay for it, and it was nice. You don't have to fear, like, because some of Milwaukee can be rough, but that was not bad at all. So yeah, the Wicked Witch of the Midwest says, "Ew, Richard Speck is a monster." Yeah, for sure. I mean, what a piece of garbage. Jethro Troll says, "Murder Metal Mayhem tattoo." Nice. I've been pondering it. I really have been. I've been wanting to do. I'm going to get some flames on my leg. That ties in with my new prosthetic when I cut, because I've showed it to you before, but it's diamond plate. I designed it with AI. It's diamond plate with flames on the top and bottom, and then a hand up like that coming out of the diamond plate. It looks really cool. And then I'm going to get tattooed on my leg, the flames continuing up my leg, which I thought would look cool. And but I've been thinking about, maybe like on this part of my arm or something. I'm not sure, because I've got the rest of that kind of tied up. So um, we'll see. But I've thought about it. I really have. I used to have a low 12 tattoo on my left leg, but they had to take my leg, so you could only see the very top of the tattoo. He said he tried to save it, but there wasn't any way to do it. And then I've got one on my right leg too, but it's different than the one that got cut. So Foxy Rose says, want to see any tattoos that you get, Pete. All right, well, that's cool. Yeah, and they'll be like visible. It's not like I'm going to get like a tramp stamp or something like that, right? It'll be on my arms or my legs, yeah, something like that. Not doing my neck or head or any craziness like that. Flame Jethro says flames sound good. Yeah, in the town that I live in, it's a small town, but there's a really good tattoo guy here. He used to have a shop in a bigger city nearby, but COVID took him out. So he had to relocate to his house, and he's got a nice setup, and he's real super clean, autoclave, like the real thing. And he's amazing. And I ran into him. It was right before I got sick with the necrotizing fasciitis. And I ran into him here at a store, and he's like, hey, I want to get some of your books. He goes, maybe we could do a trade for some tats. I'm like, yeah, dude, that'd be cool. I've been wanting to do it. So that's the last time I saw him. And like I said, I haven't seen anybody from here in town because I'm home all the time. If I'm going anywhere, it's usually to go to a doctor's appointment. So I haven't seen him, but I need to get a hold of him because I want him to do the flames. So, okay. Aunt Clara says, I was a wee child back then living in Milwaukee. I remember this. Yeah. Shaker Cigar Bar. Yeah. It's really cool. The owner that currently has it opened it in like the mid 80s. That's when he bought it. He renovated. But what's cool though is that you could go on their website, shakercigarbar.com. There's pictures of it. It's cool. It's such a cool building. But the bar is like kept in it's like 1898, I think it was built. And it's got that like etched in wood, and it's like the ceiling is like the metal pan ceiling like they had back in the day. It looks like a 1920s bar. And one of the Dillinger movies, the one with I think Mark Harmon, um, was filmed there, and because it looks so much like what that would have been. The bar looks the same. It's really cool, and depending on what night you go, a lot of people dress up. So it's kind of neat, to be in there, and they've got like a swing band playing, and there's people dressed up like the 1920s. It's pretty trippy. And then you go on that ghost tour, and then if you've got the courage, you could stay on the third floor, which they conveniently call the Dead Hooker Suite, and you could rent it for the night and stay up there. So when the bar closes at 2, they come up there and give you the keys. You got the whole third floor. And there's like a back deck off of it. It's nice up there with a fridge and a stove and everything, like a hotel, but it's like a big upstairs of the whole place. And you could sleep in there. And I've done it 3 times, once by myself, once with my wife, and then before I met my wife, the podcast was there. We did the podcast down there 2 different times. but it was a lot of fun. So yeah, Milwaukee. It's a nice city in that area. It's definitely nice. All right. Yeah, Foxy Rose says you want to do something. We've had some Murder Metal Mayhem people show up down there. I think the last time was a group of ladies from Ohio went over there. They were sisters, and they all had their Murder Metal Mayhem shirts on. So they were telling them the Bob, the owner, oh, we're here because of Murder Metal Mayhem, and of course he knows us. So it was just cool. So yeah, the nice time to go is spring or summer because you could sit outside. It's real nice. You know, he's got like outside on the street level, and then he's got a upper on the roof. They built like an outside bar area. It's really nice. Yeah, he's done nice things with the place. But yeah, it's a fun. They did some dark history, dark tourist show, but they like mocked the place. It was like not done right. But he said his business like tripled because of it. So I thought that was funny because they weren't complimentary of him. So I thought he was going to be pissed, but he laughed about it and said, "Yeah, whatever, you know." But it's so if that's what you're looking at, don't take that as the truth because I can tell you it's pretty cool. Food's really good too. The good variety, definitely unique, like island, like Caribbean style food and Cuban. Used to do a Cuban pizza. My wife really liked that. So yeah, it's amazing. It's a good time, and you could smoke cigars in there if you like smoking cigars. It's legal because they got grandfathered in because of the whatever the laws there in Milwaukee. All right, so we're at 47 minutes. I've been chatting and gabbing about the bar, and I'm not getting any kind of kickback or anything from them, but I'm just. Foxy Rose said, "I'd love to drink with Dahmer." Well, he drank at Shakers. Bob talks about it. He waited on him many times, but he preferred to have men wait on him. He didn't want the women there because there's mostly women there as the bartenders and all the servers and stuff. But he wanted a man to make his drink, so that Bob did it, the owner. And if I remember right, it was a martini that he ordered. That was his thing. And he would come down there and he would look out the window at all the people out on the street because it's pretty busy over there. And the bars that he frequented, the gay bars that he frequented, when they do the walking tour, the tour guide takes you by the bars where Dahmer was doing his thing. One of them's still a bar, the other one's just an empty building. So Lisa asks, what do they put on a Cuban pizza? I'm going to have to defer to my wife because I don't remember.
I don't remember.
She says she doesn't remember either. It was so good, though. It had a lot of stuff on it,
Yeah,
like
I mean,
meat.
it was like Cuban sandwich.
Yeah, if you know a Cuban
Ingredients.
sandwich, I guess. I'm sorry, can't be more helpful, but I don't remember. It was just really good. It had a lot of stuff on it. I remember it was like a kind of like when you get a supreme pizza. It's got like a lot of stuff. It was like that, but whatever makes it a Cuban pizza.
Yeah,
But
well, Cuban
she's pulling it up on her phone now. So
roast pork, glazed ham, Swiss cheese, pickles, and mustard.
roast
Cuban
pork,
bread.
ham, pickles, and what?
Swiss cheese and mustard.
Swiss cheese and mustard. That I don't remember that, but that's what Google's saying. So that sounds kind of weird. I don't remember that on that pizza, but it was amazing. It was amazing. All right, Foxy Rose says perfect. I like men too, and I drink beer. So there you go. You can even have absinthe there. They have the old school, like yeah, like the stuff that Hemingway was drinking when he offed himself, kind of stuff. Yeah, it's a trip. I wanted to try it the first time I went, but I was afraid to because I was staying up on the third floor and I was by myself. and I had written a screenplay. It's a long story, but I had written a screenplay that the producer director wanted to be set at Shakers. And part of the deal was I had to go meet with them all to walk through the place, took a ton of pictures, and then wrote the screenplay. And then I had to finish the screenplay up in the third floor overnight, like when everybody was gone, and they wanted me to film it, writing the final scene so that they could use it on like a DVD as like a bonus feature, something like that. So I'm like, all right, whatever, but it was kind of weird, everybody leaves the place like really quiet, and your mind starts running. But I didn't see a thing. I slept good. Woke up early, like 5:30 or so, and took a shower. They got a bathroom up there with the shower and everything, and drove home. So yeah. Oh, Alicia says hi, Jenny. So
Hi, Alicia.
hi, Alicia. That's cool. But yeah, it's a good time up there if you like that sort of thing. But it's not for everybody. It's haunted stuff. Some people don't like it. It's cool though. There's a safe in the basement that was owned by the Capones. It's unopened. Bob's had an FBI safe cracker try to open. Couldn't do it. The only way to get it open, the guy said, is to blow it open. But Bob doesn't want to do it because he doesn't want it to, be ruined. But the thing is, what's in there? It's kind of crazy. But what's interesting is, as heavy as this thing is, I mean, you probably have 20 people pick this thing up and it would be a tough lift. It's solid and it's old school, but this thing moves around the basement. And I don't know how you would move this thing. I mean, you'd have to have a truck with a chain on it to pull this thing. And it's weird. People have said, they would moved like while they were down there. It moved. We're not talking about a lot of movement, but like a few inches. And again, as heavy as this thing is, you'd hear it, but it just moves. It's weird. And a lot of weird things that people claim they see there. If you go to the website, it's got all kinds of stuff about it, if you're into that sort of thing. Foxy Rose says, I have a friend who makes absinthe, wormwood and all. It's good. I'm not a drinker, but I was tempted to that first time. But like I said, I was freaked out that I'd be there all night by myself in case I hallucinated or something with the absinthe because I'm not a drinker, so but yeah, it's a neat place. But Idaho 4, I'm working on a video. I just started working on the script before this, but it's going to be I'm still going room by room through the house, going through the photos, and I'm going to do the kitchen next. And I believe that that's where the people that did this undressed, cleaned up, and changed and took off through the slider. That's where I think that happened, based on all that Amito Black evidence. We're going to talk about it in that video. And then Saturday, Michael Adario's coming back. We had such a good time that last one we did together. We did not finish what we were talking about. Michael's got another video out. So go to Michael Adario Photography. I think I've got let me pull that up real fast. There we go. So Michael Adario Photography's got a new video out on the Idaho 4. It's really good. All his videos are good. They're very short, sweet, to the point, and well put together. He's a photographer, so he's got that eye. Let's see here. I want a couple things before I let you go. The merch store. This is the main one on TeePublic. You can buy pretty much every shirt we have other than this one and Dethany. All right. If you want the Dethany shirt, then you go to this one. All right. I hate to have to do it on two different ones, but TeePublic did not like that Dethany design. I don't know if somebody complained or they just noticed it or what, but they wouldn't let me sell it there. So, and so many people were asking about it over and over and over again. I'm like, all right, I got to do something. And then I came up with this Dinocchio one too. So yeah, so there's two there. So who are we doing this next week on Serial Killer Story Hour? Well, it's going to be next Tuesday, of course, at 7 p.m. Central, just like it was tonight. The next feature going to be the Australian couple, David and Catherine Burney from Perth. So that's on the west side of Australia. They abducted, tortured, and murdered four women. A 15-year-old was the youngest, so one was a girl. The other three were women. And the fifth victim escaped and got to the cops, and that's how they nailed him. That was in 1986. And they did this over a 5-week period. So that's like crazy. They were doing this, and they lived like in a residential area. It wasn't like they lived out in the sticks. This was just like a normal house on a very typical street in the U.S. And so yeah, so we're going to do that next week. Love the Australian cases. We've done a couple, but I thought David and Catherine were a good case because we've talked about the couple killers like Ken and Barbie up in Canada. We're going to do, I think the one after that, I'm going to think we're going to go up to Canada. I'll see if my buddy Shane wants to come on. He's from Winnipeg, and anytime I do Canadian cases, I'll bring him on. And I love his accent, and he's a good dude. He used to come on the podcast all the time. So we'll see what Shane's got going on, and we'll pick a good one for you to do. There are some interesting Canadian cases for sure. So I like to kind of mix it up and bounce around the world. If anybody's interested, there's some information there for you. Channel membership, if you're interested in that. Appreciate all you guys in the Mayhem Squad and the Horns High Club for being members and supporting the cause. Very much appreciated. I'm going to try to start using tomorrow. I'm going to try to start using this new streaming program or website called Riverside. I'm not dealing with StreamYard jacking their rates up. They want to charge me $299 a month from 44. I don't think so. So anyway, I'm switching by the end of the month, but I need to start playing around with this new one. It looks pretty similar, so you won't be affected, and it'll probably look very similar. But they can put me in even higher quality for a pretty cheap price. So you may have to look at my mug in even better quality. Maybe we'll see. But so I'm anxious to try it out. All right. Well, does anybody? Let me see here. 200 is ridiculous. I'm trying to see what that's about. 200. Yeah, Aussies. They definitely get kind of crazy over there. Yeah, I love doing the Australian cases. Um, yeah, Aunt Clara says move to California to escape all the Wisconsin serial killers. Yeah, there's a T-shirt, Clara, that says like Geen, Dahmer. Like there's been some wild ones up there in Wisconsin. So yeah, no doubt. Yeah, no doubt. Of course, California is like the home, and especially in the golden age, there was a ton of them out there. But Foxy Rose said maybe I'll have some sweet dreams tonight. Yeah. Oh, Donna put the link to the Deathany shirt. Thank you, Donna, for that. That's cool. And let's see. I'm just going through the chat to make sure I didn't miss something. Like I said, I can't get to everything, but I'm trying. Yeah, Foxy Rose talking about the years of sentence, 400 years. I mean, it's just symbolic. You know what I mean? They want every victim to be accounted for. So whatever the sentence is, they just multiply it out. It's absurd. I think it's more just to make damn well sure there's no way they're ever getting out, no matter what kind of legal maneuvers they try to pull. You know, I think that's probably what it is. But yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Mark and Betty said, Pete, any chance of covering the unsolved case of Alistair Wilson in Name Scotland from 2004? Yeah, I think you mentioned this one. I've got it on a list. I've got a list that I've always kept when I was started doing the podcast of all the topics I want to get to. And what I do is, you know, I try to keep them in like a fresh rotation. And sometimes a case might be similar to one I've covered. I don't usually do unsolved cases, on the podcast because I didn't want to keep saying allegedly every 5 minutes. But now that I'm on YouTube, I'm saying allegedly every 5 minutes. So, you know, it would work more here than it would have on the podcast. So I'll look at it a little bit harder, Mark and Betty, but I can't guarantee it. But I mean, yeah, there's so many to do. I mean, really, you could go on and on about it. So, all right. Yeah, StreamYard. They went from 44 and then they wanted to charge me 88. And I was debating because of the AI stuff they do. They make clips for you on its own. You know, I don't have to even deal with it. And they're pretty good. So I was using it for that. And then I got a thing that's just based on my usage of the software or the program or whatever the hell you want to call it. They were going to now upgrade me to a pro plan, and it was $299 a month. Now, for a channel that's pulling in like 50 G's a month, that's like a drop in the bucket, right? But for me, you know, that's you know, a good chunk of what I take in doing it, you know, because I don't make that much doing this at all, you know. It's a nice little side gig, but I mean, that's thankfully I'm not trying to feed my family with it, you know. So, all right, guys. Well, we're over the hour mark, so I'm good. But this 2 minutes is free, so I'm not going to charge you for it. Well, good to see you guys, and I will get with you next time Saturday if you want to check the. I'm trying to find Donna's. There we go. So, if you want to see me on Saturday with Michael Addario, 4 o'clock Central, we'll be here doing that. And thanks for coming. Appreciate it very much. And I'll see you next time.
You made it to the end. Thank you, my friend. You helped the channel grow. Don't forget to hit the like button. My little ganja queen, hit it like it's green. Oh yeah.